The name's Bane. Paul Michael David Bane.
Number 5, I'm going to go with The Undertaker returns to being The Undertaker at WrestleMania 20. Now, I like the American Badass gimmick. I'd like to see it return. But when The Undertaker was buried alive at the Survivor Series 2003, a very underrated show, he then later teased about returning to his old gimmick at the Royal Rumble and numerous Raw episodes leading up to WrestleMania 20, where it all began again. And it was a genuine goosebump moment to see him back at his old gimmick and Paul Bear come out one more time with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Number 4, I'm going to go with one of two Steve Austin entries. I'm going to go with the time the old Stone Cold returned at a Raw episode leading into WWF Invasion. Whoa, what a moment that was. This was my Mark moment at its peak. I was like 13 or something. I was really a huge Steve Austin mark. At the time, I hated this heel turn. I didn't want to boo Steve. I thought it was trash. And so did a lot of people, because that seems to be the time after WrestleMania 17, the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. But after that, and that heel run, a lot of people said, I'm done. I'm done with wrestling, and it never came back. I stuck with wrestling. I stuck with Steve. And it was just like stunner after stunner. He whooped. He kicked ass. I'm trying not to swear so much here, but it's so difficult when talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin coming down and he's giving everybody a stunner. It was a great, one of the most genuine, greatest Raw moments ever. Number 3, I'm going to go with Ultimate Warrior returns at the end of a very underrated WrestleMania 8. So we have one of my childhood favorites and still one of my favorites, Hulk Hogan. He's getting teamed up by Sid and Papa Shango. And, I was 4 years old when I first watched this show. And I remember wondering throughout the show, where the hell's the Ultimate Warrior? I didn't realize he had been fired after SummerSlam in the previous year. I remember looking out for him at the Royal Rumble 1992 and being disappointed he wasn't in it. Yes, I was actually at the time disappointed with that Royal Rumble because the Warrior wasn't in it. Anyways, out he comes, dun 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 dun, running like a maniac down the pathway, clothesline Papa Shango. Sid attacks him from behind, steel chair. Hogan comes back, and it was just a magical moment. It was great to see. And for the last time ever, who would have predicted this one? This was the last time we would see Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior in the same WWF ring. I know they had their little encounter in WCW, but let's try and not remember that. It wasn't very good. But these two guys were the reason I got into wrestling at a young age in the first place, and it was just a fantastic moment seeing two of my favorites and cap off WrestleMania 8. Now, my second favorite return has to be Brock Lesnar 2012, his original return. After a long 8 years, he went away from the spotlight. He tried out football. American football didn't quite work out. He went to the UFC, did pretty good. He became UFC champion and got a couple of great victories there. And then he came back, and 2012, I'm not a fan of John Cena. And I think without the streak storyline at WrestleMania and without Shawn Michaels' second run, I think I would have stopped watching wrestling in like 2005. Because I wasn't a fan of the direction it was going in. I wasn't a fan of John Cena being shoved down their throat. And I missed when Brock Lesnar departed. I missed when Goldberg departed too. And Steve Austin departed from regular television. He was the Raw GM for a while, and it was a reason to watch for me, even though he wasn't wrestling. But when Brock Lesnar returned in 2012, it was like, I like wrestling. Wrestling's cool again. even though he's been, part-time, he does a lot more appearances these years, but still, part-time, and he gets some slack for that. To me, just seeing Brock Lesnar return, big pop. F5 to John Cena, the guy that was turning a lot of us fans off of wrestling. And, there's been moments since his return, like, I've wanted to tune in. He is the guy. Like, to me, he's the wrestler of the decade. I don't care how part-time he's been. To me, Brock Lesnar's been by far the wrestler of the decade because he's got that star power. He's got that awe to him that makes me want to tune into wrestling to see what on earth is going on. So to me, this was a great return and a genuine great moment, which a lot of people seem to like at the time. Number one, I'm going to go with another Stone Cold Steve Austin moment. This was No Way Out 2003. It was built up to perfection. Eric Bischoff had been going on the search for Stone Cold Steve Austin, who had appeared in the WWE since his troubles in 2002. Now, he had some big time troubles in 2002. I forgave him personally. I forgave some other wrestlers that done some terrible things in their life. I forgave them. And there was a time I didn't think I would see Stone Cold Steve Austin back in a WWE ring, like ever. And I was generally gutted about that because he's still my favorite of all time. I love the guy. And there was a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin mark. I traveled to America to see his Hall of Fame WrestleMania. I'm from Scotland. I traveled all the way to WrestleMania 25 to see him. Anyways, his return at No Way Out 2003, JR back on the commentary desk. He's like, by God, the toughest SOB in the WWE is back, and he's came to whip another man. Oh, me, wrestling. But that was like, you've got to suspend your disbelief with wrestling all the time. But I always bought in that the Stone Cold Steve Austin was a genuine tough guy. I always bought into that character, and that was down to Steve Austin, how he portrayed that Stone Cold Steve Austin character. He really brought into it, and it was great seeing him return. And I think he ended up giving Eric Bischoff 4 stunners that night. It was a top night, and one of the best non-4 pay-per-views ever. WWE No Way Out 2003, a card that featured a rematch between Hogan and The Rock, and the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin, a return you didn't think you would see. So that is my number 1 return ever. Why am I talking about returns in this specific video? Because CM Punk's back, and I hate wrestling today. I really strongly dislike it, but I'm slightly interested in it, checking it out again with the return of CM Punk to WWE backstage, and I've got a feeling he's going to have an in-ring return very soon.